You see me messing around with this thing a lot. I am not used to this, but taking on a journey with me. So, got a little speed set here. We're gonna want like the smallest size possible, I think. Take a look at the screw. The best way to see if your screw is gonna work is to see if it's just a little bit thinner. This one's way too thin, I think, so I'm actually going to choose a separate one. This one is quite a bit thinner. And remember, the screws will cut through the plastic a little bit, but the less pressure there is, the less of a chance of actually cracking them. And the last thing I really want to do is have to print a secondary one of these. So as I'm looking into these, that's pretty good. It's about the right thickness. I could probably realistically go a little bit thicker, but again, the screw thread is going to cut through the FDM just a little bit. Got a drill. Set the drill in. Take that, ASMR. Okay. Now, I definitely want to be able to drill through this. I'm not drilling through that. That's the part that's going to clip into the MER filter. So I'm just going to kind of arbitrarily choose a place. Shouldn't matter too much, but I am going to drill, so sorry for the sound. First time I ever drilled through FDM, that worked fantastically. So I'll do the next couple. Okay, I've got 3. I'm not going to do the 4th one yet. I'll explain why later. So at this point, I need to take a look at mounting. So I'm going to need to choose locations based on where they fit with this. So instead of estimating anything, I'm going to first make sure that that is, in fact, 6-inch hole, and that should give me about 2 uses, 4 uses, 1 per quadrant. That is a little bit less than 6. Is about 5 and 7/8. This is a 12 by 12 filter to the outside, that is. So I definitely do have the quadrant piece going on here, which means I'm going to want to place it right on the edge of this thing. It's right there. Good place to start. I'm just going to slip the corners on. 1, 2, 3. You might be taking a look at the same thing I am right now. That is, I can't get this in and out because of how many corners are. So I think I'm going to have the top ones floating for now, but the bottom ones for sure. See, I'm going to probably just suspend it up a little bit higher. That way it's not in the way of the 3D printer stuff on the bottom here. So let's do this super scientifically. Because if you've ever bought anything on Harbor Freight, you may as well get one of these. This is going to be a helpful little piece here. It's going to give us the location at level for where we want this thing. So I'm just kind of feeling out where it ends on this side, feeling out where it ends on this side. Instinctively, that's right at the edge. Right at the edge, and make sure it is level, because why not? Anything worth doing is worth doing right. Slip this little leg back on, take my Sharpie, I don't have to be worried about being pretty with this because nothing's too pretty. You learn about me, I'm very much a function over form person, so as long as it works, I don't really care how attractive it is. I don't know if you can see the 2 Sharpie marks here, one there. That's where we're going to be posting these 2 pieces. If I didn't throw it all over the place, that might be helpful. So I'm going to swap out for my pre-drilling now, because it is chipboard. I want to hold on as tightly as possible. So we're going to go ahead and get our screw adapter in here. I'm going to drop the clutch a lot. I really don't want to be destroying it having to try to brace it from the back, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. Right off the bat, my screw hole is not within that quadrant. So that's an interesting option. I think at this point I need to screw through this so that I can get the bit through it. And then I need to screw another pilot hole through the back. So let's see. The biggest drill bit I've got is this one here. Yet another complex system. And that's what I thought. That'll be too small to get through. So I might have to use a different bit here. This one will work, and I'll show you how later. Alright, second time I've ever done this before. So I'm going to do the bottom left now. Probably holding it like this isn't the best idea. I do have a vise over there, but I don't feel like messing with the camera, so I'll do it right here. And there's a good chance I'll hurt myself. Alright, it's wandering a little bit. That's all I need. On the far side, I'll do a little drill pilot hole. I don't think I'll run into it there. I don't think I'll run into it there either, so I think it's just the bottom left-hand side, so I think I'm all done with this one. Okay, we're going to go back to the little drill bit. I'm just going to drill directly through the hole. That's it, little guy, that's all. Okay. So now when I go to put the screw in, I'm going to put the screw head right on through that hole. It's going to fall on through, I'll push it. That nice tight fit. And we're going to be able to set it through the screw hole in the back and into our chipboard. But like I said, the end I showed you earlier is not going to work. So I need to go grab a different bit. I'll be right back. Okay. In the ring, I've got a couple longer pieces here. What I'm going to be looking for is something like this. So this should extend, if I've done this correctly. I might not have. We're going to find out. Nope, not large enough. So I'm going to need to pause. I'm going to need to go grab an actual screwdriver, and we're going to have to do this one by hand. The rest of them should still be good to use the power tools. Be right back. Okay, here we go. Screwdriver through the hole. I'm assuming, yep, no problems. The hardest part is actually going to be lining it up with the pre-drilled hole in the back. The first thing I'm going to do is make it easy on myself. I'm going to drill in from the back to cut the threads. If I can keep the screw from falling. Cutting the threads this way will be a lot easier. Again, we run the risk of splitting. If I hear too much splitting, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pre-drill it with a different bit. You want it to be a little bit tight, but there is always a sweet spot between breaking and there we go. You feel a little bit give, all of a sudden it's easier to screw. That means it's cut correctly. We're going to go ahead, back it out, and then I'm going to put it in from the correct side and sink it where the Sharpie tells us to. Take a little bit of finesse. Let's see, watch me wrestle with this. The reality of how these things go. I'm sure YouTube people and creators will always be like, yeah, you should cut through all this, but this is reality. Alright, it's lined up. Go through. It's already pre-cut, so it's going to drill in without too much of a hassle at all. Excellent, exactly like I wanted. I take my time. I don't want to crack the threads. I don't feel like doing this project twice. All right, at this point, I'm going to get in the way. I don't really know how to do this otherwise. So, I'm going to place it in the square. I may mark it and put a tiny drill pilot through. That would stop it from cracking the chip. That's actually the smarter thing to do. Let me do that. That's where it's going. Yeah, there's a tiny, teeny little mark there. You definitely cannot see it. But I can, and I'm the one with the drill. So I'm going to drill through this real quick. Okay. And to reiterate, tiny hole, because I do not want the thread and the screw to really flop around. So at this point, I'll put it up, I'll screw it in, we'll get a nice set back. Okay, screw it in. It's pretty tight. It's not perfectly tight because I do want to be able to wobble a little bit, make sure it works. Airflow in the direction it should be coming. It'll be coming in from the back, so I want to have the little arrow pointing inward. And okay, the problem I'm running into is the screw is not flush enough. So the screw is actually pushing against the cardboard. I'm going to see if I can sink it a little bit lower. I do run the risk, at this point, of cracking the 3D printed piece. If I do, I'll print another one up upstairs. This is my FDM printer. I already have the file set. It's accessible quickly. I have another option. I could kind of scrape out the hole that's pre-drilled there a little bit. That'll allow the head of the screw, because it's a conical little head here, to seat a little bit lower. That's probably a smart thing to do. I guess I'll do that. Now, this is not going to make a tremendous difference. It'll make a little bit of a difference, and if it's snug, that's actually better. But right now, if you could see, I don't know if you'll be able to. That's about how much I have sticking out, so I want to reduce that as much as I can. So I'm going to back the screw out. I'm going to drill in with a wide bit, but I do not want to go all the way through. I just want to be able to sink the head a little bit lower. So I'm going to pull this out. Which is actually going to be a little tricky because the thread is all the way buried. There we go. By the way, I am recording this with an underwater potato. I am unapologetic. This is the first time I've ever done something like this. So I need to screw out slightly deeper into that one. I'll be using that bigger bit again, just to kind of cut the bevel. Swap, hot swap, big. Again, the point is not to go all the way through. I want to very specifically not go all the way through. If I go all the way through, I've ruined that also. So I'm actually going to be taking it nice and slow, just kind of cutting around. And it is working. I don't want to go fast because I want to keep control. The downside is, the slower I go, the more of a chance I have of actually cracking that piece. Okay, I'm actually going to stop there. I'm not sure how well we're going to be able to see it here. But there is a recessed kind of little beveled lip there. I should be able to sink this screw just a little bit deeper. Again, in. We'll see how much deeper we can get it. I'll show it to you before I put it into the wall. You may not be able to see it. That is significantly better. It's probably about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe 32nd of an inch deeper. I'm going to do a dry fit real quick to see if this just slides in over it with a little bit of friction. Now it's still pushing back a little bit, so that means I either have to push forward a little bit more, hoping this doesn't crack, or I may have to go back to the drawing board and redesign the piece. If that's the case, that's the case. And I can show you what that's like. Okay. So we look down there. Let's see here, right there. See, it is still quite proud. I can get it in there, I think, but I don't think it's practical enough. So at this point, I'm going to call this. No. Before I redesign it, I'm going to try one more time, just deepen it just a little bit more. Because if I can get that head so it's a nice fit, it might honestly work a little bit better. I could also use some different screws, but I don't have screws that have a flat head that are a shallow enough piece. That would be practical. So let me go ahead, try to level this in a little bit more. That's where I'm going to stop. I put my finger behind it. Don't do that. It's probably like against some kind of YouTube guideline or whatever. You can see I actually deformed the plastic a little bit, and that's honestly kind of what I'm looking for. If I could deform that plastic and get that thing sunk a little bit deeper, I stand a higher chance of the head of the screw sinking into it nicely. So again, I'll dry fit it on the outside so it's not screwed into the back, wasting my time, wasting your time. And let's see. That's so close. I'll be very curious to see if that fits. Let's dry fit it. Ah, perfect. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna have to do. I'll probably have to do that with the top pieces as well on the other pieces. But once I have this one done and know what I'm doing, I can go ahead and do the same thing. So I am going to now attach this to the wall. We'll go from there. Okay, so it's in. I probably could have done that a little bit higher. That will impact how much is reused, but all in all, I'm not actually looking for any kind of allergenic benefit. I'm looking for getting dust not going into my machine. All in all, that's how it's going to look. So once I get the other pieces installed, it'll look more or less like that. Okay. So again, I'm only going to do the bottom right for now, because if I did all three of them, I wouldn't be able to get this thing out to hot swap it. So I either have to figure out a way to secure it from the top. Maybe I'll have to make a different one with a tab that has a screw into it. That would be the easier thing to do. Or I could try to figure out some kind of a sliding system, which might also work. But for right now, I will be happy just having two of them holding it correctly. So I'm going to learn from my past. I'm going to pre-drill this one and get a little bit, you'll be able to see a little bit nicer here too. It's a tiny little hole for now, but it'll be a recessed tiny little hole in just a moment. Again, my finger's behind it. I want to control it. I'm going slowly so as to not take away too much material or risk splitting it. Going slower does risk splitting it though, so that's a double-edged sword. But the entire wall is only 0.8 millimeters or something ridiculous like that. It's I'm going to stop there. I can feel it deforming. Might be able to see it better. There you go. So it's recessed. We're about 30 minutes in, so we're just at about a good place to stop anyway. Resist this, screw this in. I'm actually, remember, slow at first. You want to cut the threads in. Might make this a part 1 and a part 2 video, just split it up a little bit for everyone's sake, because no one needs to watch that much video on someone who doesn't know what they're doing, right? Okay, back it out just so I can put the little pinprick in and do a pre-drill. I'm lining it up with the Sharpie we did earlier. Again, you're not going to be able to see the little pre-drill here, but it's there. You'll have to trust me. Tiniest one I have. Again, I just want to relieve some of the pressure of putting a new screw through the chipboard. I don't want to break the chipboard. I want to use this. There are some options I have if I do break it. I could use bolts. Bolts are chunky. I could put some kind of something on the back of it so it screws into something thicker. That might be a good idea too. That's all we need. So, just in the spirit of doing things by hand, I'll put this one in here by hand. Doesn't look very level, but as long as it covers the hole and gets about 1/4 of this thing covering it, I'm going to be a happy camper. So once again, in is fully covered on both counts. That's fantastic. So desired effect. After a little while, I will turn it. I'll be able to reuse it. In 4 different dimensions. That took a $10 filter and made it to me a $40 filter. All right, next time around, I'll show you how I support it on top. I think I am going to have to pre-print a new piece. I'm totally okay with that, and I could actually show you how that happened too. Thanks for sticking through. I'm going to post this unedited, so feel free to go through it. yeah, maybe I'll mess around with editing in the future when I know what I'm doing a little bit more. Thanks for sticking with me.